You were never meant to be perfect, but somewhere along the way, you were taught that being enough requires perfection. So you started hiding parts of yourself, the messy thoughts, the emotional scars, the insecurities you never speak about. You learned how to smile when you were breaking inside, how to stay silent when your heart wanted to scream. And slowly, without even realizing it, you became a version of yourself that feels acceptable to others but unfamiliar to your own soul. Perfection doesn't bring peace, it creates pressure. And the more you chase it, the more you lose touch with who you truly are. Pretending to be okay is one of the most exhausting things a person can do. It drains you slowly, not all at once, but in small invisible pieces. Every time you hide how you truly feel, every time you say, "I'm fine," when you're not, you create a gap between who you are and who you show to the world. And living in that gap is tiring. You start feeling disconnected, not just from others, but from yourself. Even in a room full of people, you feel alone, because no one is really seeing the real you. You carry conversations, responsibilities, and expectations on the surface, while inside, there's a quiet weight you can't explain. The truth is, you were never meant to perform your life like this. You were meant to live it, to feel it fully, without constantly editing yourself to fit into someone else's idea of perfection. Because the more you pretend, the more you lose your energy, and the more distant your true self becomes. There is a quiet fear inside you, the fear of being truly seen. Not the polished version of you, not the version that smiles at the right moments and says the right things, but the real you, the one with flaws, doubts, and unspoken emotions. You wonder, what if people see the real me and decide I'm not enough? So you hide. You filter your words, you soften your truth, you shrink parts of yourself just to feel accepted. But in doing so, you slowly abandon who you really are. The truth is, being real feels risky because it makes you vulnerable, and vulnerability feels like exposure. But what you don't realize is that the right people are not looking for perfection, they are looking for honesty. They are looking for something real in a world full of masks. And every time you choose to hide your truth, you delay the moment where you are truly understood, truly accepted, and truly free. Because freedom doesn't come from being perfect, it comes from being seen as you are and still choosing to stay. There was a person who spent most of their life trying to be who everyone else needed them to be. They were always the strong one, the understanding one, the one who never caused problems. People admired them for how calm and put together they seemed, but no one ever noticed how much they were holding inside. Every time they felt hurt, they smiled. Every time they needed help, they stayed silent. They believed that if they showed their true emotions, they would become a burden, so they learned to hide everything. One day, after years of pretending, they sat alone and asked themselves a simple question: does anyone actually know me? And the answer was painful: no. Not because people didn't care, but because they had never allowed themselves to be seen. In trying to be accepted by everyone, they had unknowingly disconnected from themselves. That night, something shifted. For the first time, they allowed themselves to feel without filtering it, to sit with their emotions without pretending they were okay. It wasn't easy, and it didn't change everything overnight, but it was real. And in that moment, they realized something powerful: being real might not make everyone stay, but it will finally allow the right people, and most importantly, their true self, to remain. There was a person who spent most of their life trying to be who everyone else needed them to be. They were always the strong one, the understanding one, the one who never caused problems. People admired them for how calm and put together they seemed, but no one ever noticed how much they were holding inside. Every time they felt hurt, they smiled. Every time they needed help, they stayed silent. They believed that if they showed their true emotions, they would become a burden, so they learned to hide everything. One day, after years of pretending, they sat alone and asked themselves a simple question: does anyone actually know me? And the answer was painful: no. Not because people didn't care, but because they had never allowed themselves to be seen. In trying to be accepted by everyone, they had unknowingly disconnected from themselves. That night, something shifted. For the first time, they allowed themselves to feel without filtering it, to sit with their emotions without pretending they were okay. It wasn't easy, and it didn't change everything overnight, but it was real. And in that moment, they realized something powerful: being real might not make everyone stay, but it will finally allow the right people, and most importantly, their true self, to remain. There comes a moment in your life when you start feeling tired of everything that isn't real. The pretending, the pressure, the constant need to prove yourself, it all begins to feel heavy. And in that quiet exhaustion, something inside you starts calling you back to who you truly are. Not the version shaped by expectations, not the one created to impress others, but the real you, the one you may have ignored for a long time. Coming back to yourself is not a loud or dramatic process. It's quiet, slow, and deeply personal. It begins with small things: being honest about how you feel, allowing yourself to rest without guilt, saying no when something doesn't feel right. It's about listening to your own thoughts instead of drowning them in noise, and giving yourself permission to exist without constantly trying to be better, faster, or more perfect. At first, it might feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because you've spent so much time being someone else. But the more you choose yourself, the more natural it starts to feel. And slowly, you begin to realize that peace was never something you had to chase. It was something you find the moment you return to yourself. Letting go of the version of yourself you created to survive is not easy. That version protected you, helped you fit in, helped you avoid judgment and rejection. It became your shield in a world that often felt too demanding. But there comes a time when that same version starts to feel like a cage instead of protection. You realize that in trying to be accepted, you slowly disconnected from your true self. Letting go doesn't mean you reject your past, it means you understand it. You thank that version of yourself for helping you get through difficult moments, but you also recognize that you don't need to stay there anymore. Growth requires honesty, and honesty requires courage, the courage to show up as you are, without hiding behind perfection. It's uncomfortable at first, because you're stepping into the unknown. You might feel exposed, unsure, even a little lost. But that discomfort is not a sign that you're doing something wrong, it's a sign that you're finally being real. And as you slowly release the need to pretend, you create space for something much deeper: authenticity, peace, and a life that actually feels like your own. There was a young woman who spent years trying to be perfect. She smiled when she wanted to cry, spoke when she wanted to stay silent, and wore a mask that fit the expectations of everyone around her. People admired her, praised her, and often said she had it all together. But inside, she felt hollow. She didn't know herself anymore, and the life she was living didn't feel like hers. One evening, exhausted from pretending, she decided to sit alone in the park. The sky was quiet, the world slowed down, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel everything without judgment. She cried, laughed, and spoke out loud the things she had buried deep inside. In that moment, she realized something simple yet powerful: she didn't need to be perfect, she only needed to be real. The tears, the flaws, the doubts, they were not weaknesses, they were proof that she was alive, that she was human, that she was herself. From that day, she made a choice. She would no longer live to fit expectations. She would show up as she truly was, and let the world respond to her authenticity. And slowly, she noticed that the right people stayed, the right opportunities came, and most importantly, she finally felt at peace with herself. Realness became her freedom, and freedom became her home. Your imperfections are not flaws to hide, they are pieces of your story that make you unique. Every scar, every fear, every mistake you've made carries wisdom, growth, and proof that you've survived. Yet, for so long, you may have tried to polish or erase them, believing that only perfection is lovable. But true strength lies in embracing what you once thought was broken. When you accept yourself fully, the messy, complicated, emotional parts included, you stop seeking approval from everyone else. You stop measuring your worth against impossible standards. You begin to notice that life feels lighter, that relationships deepen, and that your presence alone becomes enough. Imperfections are not obstacles, they are the threads that weave the tapestry of who you are. The more you honor them, the more real and free you feel. And the more real you are, the more life responds to your authenticity, not to the mask you once wore. Living real is a choice you make every day. It's choosing honesty over approval, authenticity over performance, and self-love over perfection. It doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy, challenges will still come, doubts will still appear, and you will still feel vulnerable at times. But the difference is, you are no longer pretending. You are meeting life as yourself, not as a carefully curated version designed to impress or protect. The moment you stop trying to be perfect, you begin to breathe freely. You notice the small joys you once overlooked. You connect more deeply with people who resonate with your truth. You forgive yourself for mistakes, you embrace your flaws, and you realize that being real is more powerful than any mask of perfection. In the end, the life that feels full, meaningful, and peaceful is not the life of perfection, it is the life of truth. So today, stop hiding, stop performing, and start showing up as you are. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be real.